Well, this is Sky News. In just a moment, the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. First, though, our top stories this evening. The Speaker of the House of Commons, John Bercow, says he is strongly opposed to Donald Trump addressing Parliament during a forthcoming state visit. The White House says it will comply with a court order overturning the US President's travel ban. The legal battle, meanwhile, to reinstate that order heads to the courts once again this evening. The Prime Minister has warned MPs not to obstruct the will of the British people over Brexit as they debate the bill, which will trigger the process of the UK's withdrawal from the EU. Hello there, you're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. In the next half hour then, we'll see what's making the headlines with the Daily Mail's consultant editor, Andrew Pearce, and the Daily Mirror's associate editor, Kevin Maguire, practising your arguments as ever over there.
Might have been agreeing.
Really?
Doubt it.
Oh, no, right, doubt it. I thought you were. That would be rare.
Can't even agree with himself.
No, well, front pages first of all, before we hear more from them. The Telegraph leads with John Bercow's opposition to Mr Trump speaking in Parliament, saying he's been accused of damaging the special relationship. The Guardian also reporting on the Speaker's stance, saying he will use his authority to prevent the President from addressing MPs. The Eye also going with that, saying he's received backing from MPs despite government criticism. And the Daily Mirror also going with that story. That's the Mirror Sport though, isn't it? And that's a different story entirely. The Metro leads on the news that Stefano Brizzi, the man who murdered a police officer before trying to dissolve his body in an acid-filled bath, has been found dead in prison. The FT reports that French bonds hit 18-month lows after market fears that the scandal surrounding Republican presidential candidate François Fillon could boost the popularity of far-right leader Marine Le Pen. The Times goes with a report from Amnesty International, which has accused the Syrian regime of torture and extrajudicial killings. The Express says a revolutionary new technique could be a breakthrough in cancer treatment. While the Star says celebrity Big Brother winner Colleen Nolan was taken to hospital after a suspected heart attack. So Andrew Pearce, Kevin Maguire are here. Mr Pearce, I know that you are not so much a fan of the Speaker's stance, his attempt to silence Mr Trump.
Well, he's an idiot. He's an idiot.
Trump?
He's pompous.
Trump?
He's a pompous,
Who, Trump?
self-important, puffed-up peacock.
Who, Trump?
No. Bercow. He's about 5'4", classic small man, complex, always trying to punch above his weight. He's just throwing his weight around. This invitation isn't from the Speaker of the Houses of Parliament to the President of the United States. It's from the monarch, the head of state. Yes, it is. It's a state visit
addressing
in the name
Parliament.
of the Queen. Hang on, I haven't finished, Kevin. In the name of the Queen, and an important part of a state visit is addressing Parliament. And this little prig, this pompous little twit who's brought untold embarrassment and humiliation on the Houses of Parliament with his dodgy expenses claims, getting cars when it's unnecessary, the humiliation heaped on the office of Speaker by his dreadful wife, Sally in the Alley Bercow.
What's that got to do with anything?
Well, and he's saying that this man, it could bring Parliament into disrepute when every time he opens his big trap, he brings Parliament into disrepute. He's an embarrassment, and it should be, and the invitation should continue, and we should be looking now at the way Parliament operates, because I don't see why the Speaker should decide rather than the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition, the Leader of the Liberal Democrats, why it should be him. And actually there are three people that should be involved in this decision. The Lord Speaker, Lord Fowler, this is getting even better for Kevin because he so likes all these ancient rights, and the Lord Chamberlain, who of course Kevin would be appalled to think would have any say in all of this, because he too has a say in it. But it seems Bercow spoke first.
Well, he gets a veto then, doesn't he? That's the point.
Yeah. And it's just an embarrassment, and it's going to cause more damage to the special relationship, which I want to be special.
Right, most state visits go ahead without whoever's coming addressing MPs and
He's the
peers.
President of the United States.
Most of them will have come without doing that from around the world, not just the US. You're right that when you're going to address both Houses of Parliament, whether in Westminster Hall or in the Royal Gallery or in the Robing Room, it is the Speaker of the Commons, the Speaker of the Lords, and the Lord Chamberlain who decide. I thought Bercow was magnificent today.
Of course, you've always liked him.
When he said, it's
ex-Tory.
He's never been a Tory.
It's a right you have to earn. It's not automatic to get it because of the migrant ban and the racism and the sexism, he's not going to be invited. It was fantastic.
Yeah,
He got applause.
but-
He got applause from MPs. Now,
Playing to the gallery as usual.
Theresa May,
Playing to the
who
gallery.
foolishly rushed over there and gave him a very early, an obscenely early invitation for a state visit, and the Queen will still have to put him up. Might have a little ride in the carriage with the hood down to try and avoid the protesters. All that will still go ahead. He might get his game of golf at Balmoral. That's all right. But I thought he was absolutely right, the Speaker, to say no. He's not fit
to
speak to MPs and peers.
Was playing to the gallery. The Speaker should almost be seen and not heard, but he's always butting in. You hear more of the Speaker than any other Speaker in modern times.
And supposed to be politically neutral. In fact, you have to give up your membership of a political party and not talk about it even after you've retired from the Speaker. So he's overstepped the mark.
Of course he has.
He's not being party political about this at all.
He's doing it to embarrass the Conservative government.
He is supported by some Tories, some Labour, probably all the SNP, some Liberals, Green.
So you're saying the fact that it was not party political means it's perfectly legitimate for him to have a view.
because he is the custodian. He's the chief commoner in the land.
Yeah.
He's the custodian of
decency. An embarrassment.
I'm on that one. Look at that. That's gone on the wrong one.
He's an embarrassment. And the fact is, we know why he's done it. And Kevin's being utterly disingenuous. He's doing this because of his continuing campaign to damage and undermine the Tories, who he hates. There were 3 Tories elected John Bercow as Speaker, and he was one of them, because he couldn't find support from any others because they despise him, because he spent years greasing up to the Labour Party to become the Speaker of the House of Commons.
The British Houses of Parliament, the seat of democracy, supports equality and the right of the judiciary. Are you disputing that he has a right to say that?
I think he's overstepped. I think he's overstepped the mark. This is an invitation at the highest level, much higher than him, because he's a Speaker who's elected by a few MPs. Now, Kevin could say the Prime Minister's not been elected by anybody either, wasn't by the British people. But this was an invitation with the full blessing of Her Majesty the Queen and the Prime Minister and the Cabinet, and it's been undermined by this little pygmy of a Speaker who's the most embarrassing Speaker we've ever had. That ridiculous posh accent of his, you'd never believe his dad was an Essex taxi driver, would you? He doesn't like too many people to know.
You can
because he wants people to think he's posh.
You can abuse him and be as rude as you like about him.
I'm not being rude, I'm being
very gratuitous about it.
I'm being objective.
As you are.
He's a dreadful little
the fact is, coming on a state visit isn't a package holiday with a trip to Parliament thrown in by the Queen. It's not in her power.
Grandstanding as per usual.
It's not
grandstanding.
It's not in the power of the Prime Minister either. Now, Downing Street, who are critical of what he said, would have preferred just no invitation to be made, so he could come and just not be invited and do it all rather quietly. It's rather like they like to work in that establishment way. But an MP got up and asked him on a point of order. More than a quarter of MPs have signed a Commons motion saying
this was spontaneous and not arranged, Kevin.
They don't want him to address them, so he got up and he was honest.
We should move on to the stories.
Can I just say, when this MP just happened to get up and just happened to ask the question, the press had been alerted beforehand to be in the chamber for when this MP just happened to spontaneously ask this question. It was all arranged because the Speaker wanted to make sure he got maximum publicity for his childish, pointless little gesture.
When Theresa May says she wants Britain to be a candid friend, he was very candid.
Well, he's not.
John Bercow.
He is an embarrassment to the Houses of Parliament.
No, he's not. He was brilliant.
He is.
He's forever bringing ministers to the dispatch box to make statements, answer questions. He champions MPs and Parliament.
Okay. Other stories, if you don't mind.
Sorry,
yes? OK, that's fine. Sorry, I love it. Very polite. Very polite.
I am. I'm a polite man.
Right, Nigel Farage. So, first of all, is this anybody's business?
Well, he's got himself a Ferrari, hasn't he?
It's making front pages.
It's no surprise.
OK, right. So, his wife has said that he's moved out of the marital home some time ago.
Yeah, which he wasn't saying.
He said, not his own private business.
Well, actually, he's probably been as slippery about this as he was about Brexit. Brexit counts far more than this. You're quite right.
Yeah.
And he's a big personality. He's often talked about his family and his German wife. But beyond that, you have sympathy certainly for her. She's very stoical. She didn't intend to be dragged into the public eye. She has. He certainly is. He seems to, although he wants Britain out of the European Union, he likes a lot of women from the European Union. All, of course, denying things as we go along. Nevertheless, there we are. He said they bumbled along like other couples. Not true. They've split up. Now, that's fine, great. She can have the privacy she wants.
Yeah, look, you could argue he could have been more upfront and said some time ago, my wife and I split up, but he would argue, we've got 2 young children, and we want to keep as much of our family life out of the public domain as possible, and that would be entirely legitimate. But he is a public figure. There's a by-election going on. Brexit is all happening, and he is the reason we've got it. And Nigel does have a bit of form for with the ladies.
He's got a bit of egg on his face as well as on his UKIP umbrella there.
I'll tell you what, though, I don't think this will make a single difference to how people perceive Nigel Farage. They see him as a lad, don't they? I don't think it will damage them in the by-elections either.
Or help them.
Plenty more still to come, including more on the French elections. In the meantime, Prince Harry's relationship also with a certain Ms. Markle. Back with that in just a moment.
Sky News at 10 brings you comprehensive coverage of the day's events.
America first.
We break down the big stories and how they affect you.
No deal for Britain is better than a bad deal.
With special reports on key issues affecting our world.
Now you see the enormity of the problem.
And of course, the press preview looks ahead to tomorrow's papers with a spectrum of formidable guests.
And this is just a huge political story.
Sky News every night at 10.
Welcome back. You're watching the press preview with me this evening, Andrew Pearce and Kevin Maguire. Let's go to the Financial Times, between other matters, as usual. Up the top there. So, Francois Fillon has a bit of a wobble, and the bond market in France is shaken because it means Marine Le Pen is now topping the polls, the far-right leader.
In the first round, still, I think, unlikely to win, but you never know in this era what happens. But, of course, he today gave his press conference, Francois Fillon, who was very much the favourite, and we wondered if he was going to quit the race, but he's not. He said he was sorry for his wife and children being dragged into this.
Well, also, he said he shouldn't have employed her, too. It's a mistake now.
But what is acceptable, you know, one year is not acceptable the next, effectively.
But he still has to show a proper record of what she did for him. Well, she did pay $700,000.
Similar accusations against MPs in this country as well.
Yeah, but no MP was accused of 900,000 euros or near, which is probably about 700,000 plus pounds. No one was anywhere near that in this.
And his wife, who's Welsh-born, I wrote about her actually when he got the nomination. She gave an interview to the Telegraph a few years ago where she said she was never an assistant or anything like that. So it does look murky.
But it's probably very good for Macron, who's a centrist. I'm not sure about the socialists, whether he'd got any chance, but it's. French politics is in real turmoil now. Yeah. And if you were opposing Le Pen and you want to stop Le Pen, who's a very fascistic, and the National Front incredibly racist,
it's the death of the EU. She wins.
You would not have this row, but there it is. It's better to get it out of the way now.
And she's dropped Le Pen from her campaign.
Amazing, isn't it, how they think, can a leopard change its spots? Not entirely.
No, of course not.
But people won't fall for that, I don't think.
No.
Both The Guardian and The Times reporting an Amnesty International report.
Well, this is horrible. Now, but one's almost not surprised in this terribly brutal civil war that's lasted 5 years. The Assad regime, according to these papers that have been found, 13,000 people hanged in jails in Syria, some of them after trials lasting 1 minute. In other words, name, age, occupation, off with his head, sort of thing.
And confessions brought about by torture is the allegation.
And the bodies are in mass graves. Damascus is filthy, overcrowded. Many more prisoners died of infection and starvation. It really was ghastly. He really is one of the most evil men on the planet, isn't he?
And yet the moral dilemma is...
He's going to be allowed to carry on.
Yeah, he started in 2011 when there were peaceful protests. If his forces hadn't opened fire on them, this could have been resolved without a civil war. He's probably killed more than any other player in that civil war, including the Islamic State, which we quite rightly denounce. But as you say, even Boris Johnson, the Foreign Secretary, has realised that he's too dug in to get shot of, and they made a mistake. David Cameron made a mistake early on by saying he couldn't be a part of any deal. But it must be... must be very difficult when you're doing the negotiations to know a man who's got so much blood on his hands. You have to talk to, and you have to give him a way forward.
And that's the Boris Johnson quote, isn't it, in the final paragraph of
Yeah.
this article, and need to be realistic about the way the landscape has changed.
Yeah.
But this is said now a military prison. I mean, just one word of caution, I suppose, and The Guardian does spell this out as well. God, this is very weird. Sorry, it's not working quite right. I did click on The Guardian, it went somewhere else. That actually it's very hard to actually find out what's happening
Exactly.
here. And the report's author, Nicolette Waldman, says that to arrive at an estimate of the number of people hanged, we took the minimum number that it could be, then the maximum, that is 5,000, up to 13,000. There is no reason at all to expect that the hangings have stopped. So it's up to 13,000.
Yeah.
It could be as low as 5,000.
And actually, the honesty
more.
in the calculations from Amnesty International does give it credibility.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
they're admitting the
but
problems.
too many is the point.
No, it's a revolting civil war, there's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. And now the prospect is that the man who has committed
Yeah.
or sanctioned these crimes stays in power.
And presumably reprisals will continue.
Yeah. To Prince Harry, the ring.
Oh, you must be so pleased.
I
We're
just
going to have
can't get
royal
it.
wedding bells.
No,
Are
it's
you going to
supposed
get an
to
invitation?
It's supposed to signify
get
an age.
enough.
I just can't see it myself. I'm going to zoom in. We'll see where this thing dances. Is that an...
Well,
is
I
that
don't think...
H?
It doesn't look like an H to me.
No.
It looks like a...
It's an H if you want it to be.
Yeah.
Yes, OK, right.
It's a very... it looks like a very expensive piece of jewellery, and I'm sure it is. He doesn't do cheap. I don't suppose he bought
don't
that
know
in the
it's from
modern-day
him, though, do
equivalent of
we, to be
Ratner's.
honest?
I don't think she was wearing it...
She might have won it in a...
Well, we saw her
fun fair.
when she was last seen. She wasn't wearing it, so
OK.
it's a recent
She might have
acquisition.
bought it herself.
I know, there is,
Yeah,
there is that, you know.
She might have got it
and
online.
she is wearing it on her right hand, not her left hand.
Might have popped into Argos, or the shops are available. I know.
Yeah, so, you know, people, if they're
Yeah.
wearing engagement stuff, tend to be on the left hand, don't they?
I don't really
Although
care.
she's an American.
I really just
She
do
could
not
soon become
care.
Princess or Duchess of.
Well, you know, if they're happy together, good luck to them.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, let them hide somewhere and drop all this royal nonsense,
Yeah.
and he can get a proper job now. That's all right. Great. I'll be happy for them.
I wonder
way.
if that's the flower store near my office, because that's right by Kensington Palace.
And meanwhile, just while we're on the theme of royalty,
flowers.
a lovely picture in the Telegraph. No, I clicked on the Telegraph, went to the Guardian. We're going to have to reboot this.
doing well on
I
this,
think.
aren't we?
Salute with a smile. Members of the King's Troop Horse Artillery have a moment's relaxation before taking their positions with the 41-gun salute in Green Park to mark the Queen's Sapphire
Amazing.
Jubilee.
65 years. The first monarch to
Glazed
get to
over eyes.
65.
No.
The first monarch to get to 65, and her father, George VI, often gave her sapphires on special birthdays, 18, 21, when she got married, the birth of the first child, and she was wearing them in that official photograph the other day. Looking terrific, I think.
It sounded like a military coup with the guns going off for so long. I could hear them.
Kevin,
but of course they've
we do
used
them every year. We do them every year.
Think
February the 6th.
think of the
It's
damage to the
it's
environment.
The anniversary of the succession.
But of course they've used the picture because a change in her reign, a change in this country. Look how many of them are women. And
4
they
out
would
of
not,
5.
and
Yeah.
they would not have been in the past.
And because the Queen is nowhere to be seen because she's still at Sandringham.
She
That's
is,
the other reason.
and we won't see her for a bit.
Why
She's
not they
not doing
fire
it
the
again.
guns there then instead of in the middle of London if she's out?
Because
lot
it's a
of
private
tourists in
estate and no
London.
one will see
She's she's gone to one of another large houses.
We will see you there later,
Green-eyed
won't we?
monster. He's jealous of the Queen.
Well, you could house a lot of people in that palace if we just broke it up into apartments. There's a homelessness problem, you know, an accommodation problem. There's a green paper or white paper by the government
it's like
tomorrow.
stuck in a long
Some in
playing
Windsor,
We'll see what
Buckingham
half 11.
Palace, Balmoral,
Do we have to have
Sandringham.
him? Does he have to come back?
The weather's
Does he
coming
have
up
to?
next. He will continue, no doubt, for some time
He'll
on
be
this one.
chuntering on for the next half an hour.